Okay, good morning. We're continuing in Shulchan Aruch Mishna Berura. We're on Siman Resh Ayin Tet 279. We started yesterday. I think we did the first Seif. So now we're on Seif Bet. ner ze she'amarnu she'asur letaltelo afilu tzach gufo tzach kama asur v'yesh mishite v'lo niru devarav. So yesterday we said that if a person obviously before Shabbat a candle that was lit, so even after the candle turns off, now you have to understand what that means. When we say ner, I shouldn't maybe translate as candle. It's more like a cup, let's call it, a vessel that had oil in it, okay? And now the point is, let's say after the fire turns off, let's say I want to use the cup for something, whatever it is. So it says, the Shulchan Aruch says, it's asur to move it the entire Shabbat. Why? Since it was mukseh, the rule is in general, anything that's mukseh at the beginning of Shabbat, when Shabbat starts, it's mukseh the whole Shabbat. So here, since it was, right? And the reason why it was mukseh at the beginning of Shabbat is because it was a basis to the flame. So it says, not only can you not move the candle, move the vessel, you said, okay, let's say I want to take any of the leftover oil and use the oil for something. It says even the oil is mukseh the entire Shabbat. And that's because the oil also was mukseh in the beginning, either because it was in the middle of being used as fuel. So therefore the whole Shabbat it's mukseh. Okay, so now it says in Seif Bet that that when we say you cannot move this candle, this cup, whatever, so you can't move it at all, he says, even if you need the place or you need to use it for something mutar, right? Because we know that by mukseh you have a few different levels. The highest level of mukseh is, let's say, is something that you cannot move even if you need the place. So let's say, example is a rock. A rock, because it has no real use, it's not a utensil. So if you have a rock on your table and you're like, well, I need the space, well, you're not allowed to pick up the rock. There are other ways to, perhaps you move it indirectly, but to move it, but you're not allowed to move it directly. So it says here that this candle, this lamp, also has that same strictness that you cannot move it even if you need its place. And he says there are those that permit you to move it for its place or to use it for something permitted, but the Shulchan Aruch says their words do not seem to be correct. Haga, the Rama adds, V'yesh omrim, some say, the mishu is istinis, someone who's very sensitive, v'haner ma'is alav, and it's bothering him, this candle, this thing is bothering him a lot, mutalot, so he's allowed to remove it, because for him, it has a din of a graf shari. Graf shari is something that is like that bothers a person a lot, disgusts him, whatever. So the Hachamim allowed a person to remove it directly in certain situations. So it says the Rama. Some say that applies here if a person really bothers him. So then he can remove it. And then he adds the Rama that someone who is lenient has what to rely on. Now, let's see the Mishna Berura. That was so Mishna Berura is Seif Katan Daled. Okay, afilu letzorech velo dami lishar kli shemlachto leisur demutar letaltelo tzorch gufo mekomo. So says the Mishna Berura to explain why are you not allowed to move this vessel, this lamp, if you need the place. So he says it's not like the other kinds of mukseh that you are allowed. Why? The reason why this lamp is mukseh, like we said, is because the beginning of Shabbat, it was holding the flame. And the flame is something that cannot be moved for any reason. The flame is completely mukseh, cannot be moved even for its place. So the rule is, we said that anything that's holding a mukseh is also mukseh if it's holding in the beginning of Shabbat. So since it was holding the flame can't be moved at all, therefore this lamp can't be moved at all as well. Doesn't matter whether it's the cup that's holding the oil, or I mean, the point is, it doesn't matter what exactly is holding the lamp. It all becomes a basis.
So if you have the cup that's holding the lamp, and then that's on a shelf.
Yes.
Does that mean that the shelf is also has the same level of mukseh?
Right. So the question is, how far do we go? Do we keep going on so let's say the candle or whatever that is on a tray, and the tray is on the table. So we say the tray and the table and everything. I did learn before that the basis only is once. You don't go more than once. But then I found out that that's a big machloket, and it seems like we don't go by that. At least not. Yeah. So then. I don't know if I have to find out. I'm not sure halacha if we can rely on their lenient opinions. But your question's on a shelf. You mean like you're asking anything? Table, yeah. So here the Mishna Berura, I have to maybe look up this better. But from the Mishna Berura, it sounds like I think that it doesn't matter because, in other words, really. You have to think about it that the flame is on the wick and the wick is on the candle or in the oil, and the oil is in the cup. So it sounds like we keep going, and yet it sounds it's a problem.
Rabbi, what if you designate the vessel holding the flame for another use on Shabbat as well?
Oh, so
I have a bowl made of rock. Exactly, it's technically a rock, but it's a bowl.
Right.
And I could technically put a tea lamp or something inside this bowl.
Right.
Once the tea lamp is done, let's say I want to continue using it to put my things in for Shabbat.
Right. Well, to put things in it should be fine anyways, because there's only a problem of moving it. It's not a problem of technically using it without moving it. But your question is basically if I had in mind, or exactly. Hopefully, if we get to today, this Seif will talk about if it helps to say before that I'm planning to use it like you said, if that's going to help to use it. I guess we'll get to it. I think it's going to be machloket. Here, I think actually the Shulchan Aruch is more lenient. Let's just see quickly. Istinis v'habach u'magen Abraham pasuk da'af mi she'enu istinis. I'm sorry. Seif katan hey. Istinis, someone who's very sensitive. You don't have to be like a very sensitive person. As long as for you it bothers you and it's disgusting that it's on the table, it's enough to take it away. Okay. See, we don't understand these so much because today we're like, what's so disgusting about a candle? See, in those days they had like an earthenware vessel. Afterwards, I guess it really could be like, I don't know, bother the person. This earth was like dirty, like it bothers the person. Shumos, so therefore it says the bach is mashma. It's only by an earthenware vessel. Shumos, that's for sure. It's like disgusting. Vav, or if it's wood. But if it's metal, lo ma'is, you can't. It doesn't. It's not. It's and the Rachaim is mashma. Now, if you're not a sensitive person, you shouldn't move it. Okay, what it means by discussing is that it's hard for you to be there after it turns off, or the following day. I'm sorry, Mishna Berura Zayin. So you're allowed to remove it. It means if it's where you're sitting, you can remove it. But if it's somewhere else, let's say it's another room, it's not really bothering you there. Meaning, even someone who's sensitive is forbidden according to all opinions. Okay, so the Mishna Berura just fixes the lashon. It should say that those that want to be strict should be strict, but those that want to be lenient have what to rely on. Okay, That was Seif Bet, Seif Gimel in the Shulchan Aruch. L'taltel ner al yedei shenoten alav lechem b'Shabbat asur v'noten alav lechem b'od yom. Yeshvish v'atil alav b'Shabbat l'yedei lechem zeh v'nismoch alav. So this is a very common thing that people do. That okay, let's say like you just asked, you want to move the table. The table now becomes basis. So what do? So some say here is not talking about the table. Here is talking about even a more of a chidush. You want to move the actual lamp, the cup, whatever, by putting a bread. I mean, you have to think practically how it works. I guess, let's say you have like this big lamp, and somehow you can fit a bread on top of the lamp, although while the fire is on. So it says here that it doesn't help to put the bread after Shabbat starts. Once Shabbat starts, putting the bread is not going to help. Why? Because we said before that once it was mukseh at the beginning of Shabbat, it's mukseh the whole Shabbat. But if you put the bread before Shabbat, so then he says, some say then that's good, but then he says, I don't rely on that either. So let's see why he doesn't like that either. So let's see Mishna Berura Seif Katan Tet. The reason why it doesn't help to put the bread during Shabbat, like we said, since in the beginning of Shabbat it was mukseh, like we said before, halechem yud haynu im halechem hu chashiv tziyutzim hashemen. The only way that bread might help, in the case if you put it before Shabbat, is if the bread is more important than the oil. Remember, this is an important rule here. In order to potentially, so a great classic example, again, as we're going to see by a table itself, in order to move the table, and let's say you lit the candles on the table, or let's say you want to be able to open a drawer on Shabbat, and the drawer has mukseh in it. In order to be able to move something that contains mukseh, you have to put something that's not mukseh, that's at least as, or it says here, more important than the mukseh. So for example, you want to open your drawer. A drawer has $10 in it. So if you put a little toothpick in your drawer, that's not going to help you to open your drawer. If you put like a siddur in your drawer, for example, the siddur is more important than $10, so then you could open your drawer. So here so he's trying to say is that here by the bread, if the bread is more important than the oil, which was the thing, so then potentially that's going to help. Or you put anything else that's important. Now that it's holding both asr and mutar, since the mutar is more chashuv, it's okay. But the mechaber ends off by saying, don't rely on this. Why? Why should you rely? Says the Magen Avram, the reason why the bread does not help you move the actual lamp is because since the lamp is made to hold the candle, made to hold the flame, so whatever you put on it, even you put like chumash, it's looked always as it's holding its main purpose is holding the flame. So everything else is not going to be looked at as important. That's why putting the bread is not going to help you to move the lamp. But of course, it will help you, as we'll see today or whatever. It will help you to move the table. That means, like we said, if it's on a tray or whatever, and you want to be able to move the tray or whatever it's on, so then if you put the bread on the table or tray, then you would, as long as the bread is more important, that would help you to move the tray. Okay. Seif Dalet. This is what your question is, Yehuda. If before Shabbat you made it tonight, you said that I want to move this candle, this lamp, when it turns off, says the Shulchan Aruch, you're allowed to move it. So it basically is telling you that a tanai helps in such a situation. And why? Let's see right away. Maybe the Mishna Berura says the Mishna Berura Yud Aleph Mishum Diner Asui Leikavot. Since you know the fire will eventually turn off, right? Mishum Hachem and Tanai. Therefore, it helps because a Tanai helps when you know something is gonna happen. So you're basically saying, I am not abstaining. I'm not disconnecting myself from this lamp. And the whole concept of mukse, what's mukse? When I disconnect and it's out of my mind. So I just said I know. So that's why it helps to. אבל בשאר בסיס דבר אסור. אף ראשונה לא מעני תנאי. להטון כשיסלק הדבר אסור מן הבסיס שמותר להשתמש מגן אברהם. ולכמן. He says that this only therefore helps by a candle because you know it's going to go out. But it doesn't help. Let's say you have this. You put your phone on a table before Shabbat. Now, one of the rules of basis, in order for let's say this table to become mukse on Shabbat, is that I have to purposely, intentionally put a mukse on the table with the intention that it should be there on Shabbat. So says the Mishna Berura, there it's not going to help you tonight. You can't say, I have in mind that in case somehow this cell phone falls off the table or somehow it gets removed, I'm going to be allowed to use the table, because you're not expecting, or it's not expected for the cell phone to come off. I mean, technically, I guess you could move it with your elbow, but I guess the point is, since you need to do something to take it off, it's not going to just come off on its own. But that's why only here by the fire, since the fire eventually is going to turn off, that's why it helps.
So if I want to use this as a paperweight for Shabbat, my cell phone,
yeah,
I can designate it as a paperweight. It's now turned off, and I can use it technically as a paperweight.
Okay, so that's a separate issue. That's it's connected but not the same. That's
so related to what you said. If I have a tea lamp and I light the tea lamp and I have an intention of using the vessel of the tea lamp, the tin vessel, to hold my tea bag after I'm done with my tea.
Right. But it's not exactly the same, because you see the lamp, at the end of the day, it's not innately mukse, it's holding mukse. But there is a general concept. Like the classic case is you take a rock before Shabbat, and you say, I want to use, you might have to even say it, depending on the case, but I want to use this rock to hold my door open, or let's say as a paperweight. And depending on what you want to use it for, it could be, if it's something that it's normally used for, then you just have to say it or even think it. If it's not normally used for that, you have to actually maybe do it once. You actually have to use it as a paperweight or hold the door open before Shabbat. Then technically the rock, or in your case the cell phone, I guess, let's say, will now become mutar to move, which means you can literally pick up and move the cell phone or the rock.
Isn't there a reason you might actually use your phone accidentally, like a pen?
Well, I mean, you could always say that. We say by a hammer you can move it to use it for something mutar. We don't say you're going to use it for something. I don't think we make that gezerah. The only thing I'm not sure yet about a cell phone, assuming this is like an cell phone that you don't just let anyone just touch and play like your kids, which is muksamach and kis. If it's something that's like, I don't know if there's a special rule that it doesn't help your tanai. But again, this is only something that you're so sensitive about that you don't let anyone like your kids play with it. If you do let your kids play with it, then I think it should be fine. But I don't know. I wonder if there's also a concept, don't do these things, because it like starts to make Shabbat in your eyes thing. But yeah, this is Siman Resh Ein Tet, which is not really focused on mukse. It's much later it could be that it would help. Okay, let's see. Where are we? We did Seif Katan. Okay, let's see. Yud Bet. No, do we do Yud Bet? No. Let's see the Ramah and the Haggah. The Ramah says no. It doesn't help. Even if you say you plan to use this lamp, it doesn't help. So according to Ashkenazim, according to Ramah, according to Elu, that you cannot make this tanai. It doesn't help, and it could be according to v'dina tanai ein lekaman siman tefillah. If you want to look all the laws of a tanai, look later on. Siman, but let's see that in the Mishna Berura Yud Bet. Which means that in order to make a tanai, it has to be before Shabbat starts. So the reason why, according to Ramah, it doesn't help here to make a tanai, because what are you going to say? See, the classic case of tanai is by Sukkot. Before Sukkot starts, let's say you want to maybe eat some of your pomegranates you hanged up as schach during Sukkot. So the problem is once you hang it up as schach or as decorations or whatever, it becomes like mukse to the mitzvah. So says the Shulchan Aruch that if before Sukkot starts you say, I don't plan to separate myself from the decorations during the beginning of Sukkot, when Sukkot, etc., so then that will help. Says the Rama, can you say that here? You don't plan to separate yourself from the fire when Shabbat starts? What do you mean? You automatically have to, you're not allowed to do anything with the fire. So you can't say, that's why he's saying it doesn't help here. Okay, according to the Gra, in how he explains the first opinion there, it sounds like it actually could help even by a flame. The point is that Shulchan Aruch says it works, but the Ramah hopes it says it does not. Says the Ramah, however, you are allowed to tell a non-Jew to move the lamp. Why? Says the Mishna Berura Yud Gimel, and it says, even if you have no use for the lamp, you just don't want it to be here, either because you don't want it to get lost or whatever, it's still it's okay. Why? Says the Mishna Berura Yudal Avi Kilu Itna Retzono Lomar Dil Taltelo Al Den Yudi that Mitzarfin Lazah Dereshon Danitana. He's saying we rely on the on the Shulchan Aruch's opinion that a Tanai helps in order to you move it through a goy. So but then of course he says, if you have a candle that you are expecting it to stay on the entire Shabbat, let's say those 24-hour candles, so then l'chora at tonight doesn't help. The whole point of the tonight was, because you expect it to go out. But if you didn't expect it to go out, then the tonight doesn't help, and therefore it could be, in that case, even to move it through a goy is a problem. But then he says that to move it for its space or to use it for something mutar, then you're allowed to move it through a goy. It sounds like even without a tanai, even in this kind of situation. Okay. Okay, so we'll stop here. Baruch Adonai le'olam, amen ve'amen. Hazak u'baruch.